The 911 call was brief. Calm. She's not breathing. Sophia Miles lay in bed, eyes closed, one arm resting by her pillow. From a distance, she looked peaceful, but the blood had already dried. A single bullet. 12 hours earlier, she was laughing on the phone, saying something no wife should say. And someone heard her. Now she's dead, and the man who made the call swears he slept through everything. But detectives think otherwise. So, what exactly did he hear that night? And who exactly was she talking to? Welcome to Evil Crime Cases. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. Please like and share our videos, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section. Now let's get back to the details of the case. The 911 call came in at 6:45 a.m. The man on the line sounded calm. Too calm. Not confused. Not panicked. Just tired. He said he'd woken up next to his wife, and she wasn't breathing. When first responders arrived, Sophia was still in bed, face turned slightly toward the open window, sheets barely disturbed, her skin pale, lips parted. From across the room, it could have passed for sleep. But when the paramedic brushed her hair aside, they saw the dark bloom behind her right ear. A small hole. No exit wound. Gunshot. Close range. While she slept, just two people inside the house that night, Sophia and her husband, Palmer. Sophia's hands were folded near her chest. No blood beneath her fingernails. No bruises on her arms. The forensic pathologist would later describe her as undisturbed by death. She never fought back. Never even flinched. The house was quiet. Nothing stolen. Nothing smashed. But something was missing. Her phone. Not on the nightstand. Not in her purse. Gone. Palmer said he didn't know where it went. Claimed they'd gone to bed around midnight. No argument. No noise. Just sleep. But when police asked what he remembered hearing before sunrise, he paused. He said, "I must have been dead asleep. Didn't hear a thing." Strange, isn't it? How a gun could go off in the same bed, and the man beside her never even turned over. Later that day, Sophia's sister showed up at the scene. She was sobbing, confused. Told police Sophia texted her at 11:42 p.m. Said she was mad happy. Said something about finally telling Palmer the truth. About her boss. About what she felt. Police asked Palmer if they'd argued that night. He shook his head. Said they barely talked at all. Said it had been a quiet night. The medical examiner would find no sedatives in her blood. No alcohol. No sleeping pills. She just never woke up. And her phone, the last thing that connected her to the night before, was never found. She was born in 1987 in a walk-up apartment in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, back when the blocks still whispered with sirens and corner stores stayed open all night. Sophia Marie Adams. First child of Lorraine Adams. No father listed on the birth certificate. No brothers. No sisters. Just the two of them. And whatever dreams they could afford that week. Sophia wasn't loud, but she was relentless. Teachers noticed. Customers at the diner where she waitressed through college noticed. She had a way of looking you in the eye that made you fix your posture. She studied marketing at City College, worked the morning shift at a laundromat, the graveyard at the front desk of a hotel, and still showed up for lectures with lip gloss and notes organized by color. The ambition wasn't loud. It was quiet like a storm cloud, but it never left. In 2011, she met Palmer Miles. He was fixing a radiator outside the print shop where she'd just landed a freelance campaign. His hands were calloused. His laugh had timing. He offered to walk her to the train. She said yes. He ran a small garage with his cousin. Said he wanted to own 5 one day. Miles Auto, one on every side of the city, he told her. She believed him. Back then, he believed himself. They got married the following spring. Small ceremony. Her mother cried through the whole thing. No honeymoon, just a weekend at Atlantic City and a toast with plastic flutes. But she looked happy in the photos. Hair curled, dimples deep, the kind of joy you only get from building something out of nothing. Sophia got hired full-time by Downtown Fern that fall. Then promoted. And again. She wore suits like armor. Knew a shade of lipstick landed deals. By 2017, she was managing regional campaigns, pitching to clients twice her age, and winning. Her co-workers called her the closer. She smiled, said thank you. But when she got home, the smile didn't always follow. The apartment in Flatbush was quiet. Not the peaceful kind, more like the kind that settles after you stop asking questions. Palmer's garage wasn't doing well. His cousin left the business. The expansion talk stopped. The hours got shorter. The drinks got longer. Sophia stopped mentioning promotions. He stopped asking about them. At work, she was respected, listened to, admired. But at home, her voice felt like static. One friend remembers it clearly. She told me once, "At work, I feel seen. At home, I feel erased." I never forgot that. Texts became more infrequent. She'd cancel meetups or show up late with excuses that sounded more like apologies. On her social media, photos of campaign wins and business travel remained, but no new ones of Palmer. None at all after 2019. There was one post that stood out. A photo of a window with sheer curtains, captioned only, "Trying to find the air again." No likes from Palmer. No comments from him either. Her old college roommate says she once confided about a night when Palmer came home drunk and accused her of sleeping with her boss. She didn't argue, just locked herself in the bathroom until morning. She said, "He didn't hit me, but he didn't have to. It's like the love just got replaced with waiting." She was still showing up for work, still helping junior staff polish their pitches, still smiling through Monday meetings. But at home, inside the apartment where she'd built a marriage, a life, a hope, something had gone cold. And no one knew just how deep the silence had gotten until the morning after she didn't show up for work. Palmer Miles wasn't raised to complain. He came from a home where men worked with their hands and swallowed their disappointments. The third of 5 kids, raised in a small 2-bedroom apartment off Kingston Avenue. Their father, a transit worker. Their mother cleaned homes 6 days a week. Palmer learned young that nothing was guaranteed, and that dreams, if you had them, had to wait. His dream was simple, an auto shop with his name on the window, Miles Automotive, a place where he could fix engines and people would know his name. At 23, he met Sophia in a diner. She was waiting tables. He just gotten his first job at a garage in Brownsville. She was sharp, playful, way out of his league, and somehow she saw something in him. They got married in 2012, just a small courthouse ceremony. Sophia wore a green dress. He remembers it better than he remembers the vows. But love, no matter how strong, doesn't stop time. By 2018, Sophia was managing accounts for a high-end marketing firm. Palmer was still a junior mechanic, now in East New York. He applied for a small business loan, twice. Both were denied. Insufficient credit history. He didn't tell Sophia. Just came home quiet that night. The first DUI came that same winter. He'd fallen asleep at the wheel. No one was hurt, but he kept the paperwork buried in the glove box for months. They moved into a 1-bedroom near Fulton Street. Small, dim, but affordable. He began keeping track of Sophia's schedule, which meetings she had, who dropped her off after work. If her phone vibrated twice at dinner, he'd ask if it was her boss again, then pretend like it was nothing. One night, he accidentally deleted a voicemail from her mother, claimed the phone glitched. His mechanic uniform, navy blue, stitched with Pete Miles, stayed folded on the arm of the couch for weeks. Unwashed, untouched. The second DUI came after he left a bar on Flatbush. Sophia was out of town at a conference. He told the cops he was lost. The officer said he never even turned on his headlights. There was a box in their closet where Palmer kept old birthday cards Sophia had given him. He used to reread them. Not anymore. Instead, he started writing things down on loose pieces of paper. How many hours does she even spend here now? Boss calls at 9:14 p.m. again. 2 drinks on Thursday. 1 glass. What? Not in a notebook. Just in scraps he'd shove under the mattress. The garage finally laid him off in spring. Said business was slow. He told Sophia they were restructuring. That same week, Sophia's firm promoted her to regional accounts. She came home with a bottle of champagne. He faked a smile, clinked glasses, and finished the whole bottle alone after she fell asleep. He didn't sleep that night. Inside their kitchen cabinet, a broken clock Sophia had once said she wanted fixed still sat on the counter, gathering dust. Palmer had promised to fix a year earlier. He never did. The photo of Sophia still lived in his wallet, bent at the corners, faded at the edges. But he never looked at it anymore. Just carried it like a receipt he forgot to throw away. It was 11:52 p.m., the night before the murder. Sophia stood barefoot on the second-floor balcony, backlit by the soft gold of hallway light. In one hand, her phone. In the other, a half-empty glass of Moscato. She was laughing, unfiltered. Through the cracked window behind her, Palmer could hear everything. Her voice carried in the night like a confession drifting into a confessional. Gina's voice was muffled, but Sophia's was sharp, bright, and reckless. Girl, the man is magic. My boss. I don't even know what he did to me, but I've never felt anything like that before. Palmer was just stepping out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, toothbrush still in his hand. He froze, didn't blink, didn't speak. For 22 seconds, he just listened, not because he wanted to, but because the words held him hostage. There was no rage. Not yet. Then Sophia said something else. He listens to me. Like really listens. Makes me feel like I'm the only woman in the damn world. That one hit deeper. Palmer looked at the floor, then at the closed bedroom door, then down at the toothbrush still in his hand. He turned and walked back inside. He didn't interrupt her. He didn't say a word, because what he heard wasn't just betrayal. It was something older, something deeper, a humiliation that made him feel invisible in his own home. Inside, Palmer sat on the edge of the bed. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He opened the bottom drawer of his nightstand, pulled out a folded flannel shirt, and quietly wrapped something inside. A screwdriver. Not a weapon. Not yet. Just a symbol. A week earlier, he'd used it to hang the floating shell Sophia said she wanted for her candles. He looked at it for a long time, then placed it gently back into the drawer, wrapped like a relic. Outside, Sophia laughed again. I swear, if you ever meet him, you'll understand. He just has that thing, you know. Palmer lay back on the bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling fan blades turning in slow, hypnotic loops. He didn't move again until the sun came up. He didn't ask questions, didn't raise his voice, didn't mention what he overheard on the balcony. That silence wasn't forgiveness. It was restraint. The next morning, Palmer's car leaves the building at 4:17 a.m. A traffic camera captures him circling an industrial zone in Red Hook twice. No clear destination. No stops. No phone calls. Just motion without meaning. Detectives later pulled GPS and surveillance logs. He spent nearly 2 hours behind the wheel, windows down, music off. Lab technicians found gunshot residue on the steering wheel. Left side, inner curvature of the leather grip. He said it came from a brake pad job last week. But the lab notes read, single source particulate. Burn signature consistent with recent discharge. No brake dust. Later, when investigators map Palmer's emotional state, a profiler writes, emotionally avoidant male, age 30s. They didn't find a manifesto. No threats. No text messages. Only one thing in his search history. How long does GSR stay on skin? What Sophia didn't know, that the man who once begged her to move in now couldn't stand the sound of her voice. That every laugh she shared at work scraped something raw in him. That every successful day she celebrated felt like a personal insult to the man who failed to open his garage. This wasn't about infidelity. This was about displacement. The world had told Palmer he wasn't enough. But instead of shouting at the world, he stared at the woman who kept rising while he stalled. And he waited. Because sometimes, the most dangerous people aren't the ones who lash out. They're the ones who keep everything inside, until it leaks. Then Malcolm Carter, senior partner, divorced, father of 2, well-liked, respected, charming, and, according to office rumors, familiar with the boundaries he crossed. Detectives first approached Malcolm 2 days after Sophia's body was found. He didn't flinch. It was brief, casual, months ago. Nothing serious, and definitely over. That was his statement. And on the surface, it checked out. No recent texts. No voicemails. No signs of contact. But Detective Renee Douglas wasn't buying it. The break room whispers didn't match the man's polished calm. Then came the diary, discovered not by Palmer, not by police, but by Sophia's younger sister while packing up her belongings. Taped inside a hardcover journal, hidden behind a false back. The handwriting matched known samples. The paper was aged, but recent enough. I feel alive again. It's wrong. But when I'm with him, it's like someone finally sees me. Wants me. Not out of duty, but desire. The him wasn't named. But pages later, MC said he couldn't stay over again. I understand. He has a reputation to protect. I have a husband I barely speak to. I guess we're both hiding. Detectives got a warrant for Malcolm's work devices. Clean. But the building's internal surveillance, archived but not deleted, told a different story. 3 days before Sophia died, Malcolm swiped into the parking garage at 10:13 p.m. His name didn't appear on any official calendar. No late meetings. No deadlines. He exited the garage at 1:41 a.m. Office cameras show Sophia entering at 10:34. Neither of them signed in. But in one frame, the elevator captures them standing side by side. Neither speaks. They don't touch. But they are clearly together. Malcolm had told detectives he hadn't seen Sophia in over a month. Now his story had cracks. When re-questioned, he shifted. Look, we were friendly. Sometimes flirty. Maybe that night we just talked. Detectives pressed. He pushed back. Eventually, his lawyer stepped in. Malcolm was never charged. No DNA. No forced entry. No motive tying him directly to her death. But to investigators, he wasn't important for what he did do. He was important for what he may have ignited. Because one day after that office encounter, Sophia had left a sticky note on the fridge. Let's talk. No more pretending. Please. Palmer never mentioned it to police. Instead, the next morning, Sophia went to work. She came home late. She never left the house again. Detectives believe that whatever happened in that office didn't end there. It followed her home. The night Sophia Carter was killed, Southwind Lane looked quiet, too quiet. A cul-de-sac where porch lights buzzed and camera lenses blinked, but no one truly looked out their window. At least, no one claimed to. But the cameras did. A tall figure, hooded, familiar posture, pacing the sidewalk directly across from the Carters' home. Hands buried deep in pockets. No smoke. No phone. Just pacing. Back and forth. That figure? Daniel Palmer. Sophia's husband. When asked, he said he couldn't sleep. Said he stepped outside to clear his head. Said he smoked 2 cigarettes, then went back inside. But no cigarette was ever seen. No ember. No flick of ash. Not on camera. Not even the garden bed where he claimed he stood. He wasn't doing anything. Just walking in a loop, like a guy waiting for a delivery. Or maybe a signal. We've watched that footage 27 times. It wasn't nerves. It was ritual. By 3:04 a.m., Palmer is no longer visible on any camera. 23 minutes later, 911 is called. Sophia has been shot once through the skull, just above the ear. There are no signs of forced entry, no defensive wounds, no broken glass. And a single 9mm shell casing lodged underneath the bed frame. It was surgical. One shot. No movement. The bullet entered from the left. Sophia was right-handed. She never slept on that side. But someone who knew her, who studied her habits, would have known that. We often assume rage is loud. But this wasn't rage. This was planning. Cold, deliberate. Whoever pulled the trigger didn't hesitate. That tells you something about intent and familiarity. Palmer's registered handgun was a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 9mm. He claimed he hadn't seen it in months. Claimed it was probably in a toolbox. But the drawer was empty. Police searched the property, then the surrounding area. 4 days later, a city sanitation worker clearing a storm drain 6 blocks from the home noticed something heavy, rusted, wedged between a grate and a bag of trash. It was the missing gun. No fingerprints. No blood. No DNA. Just traces of GSR, gunshot residue, on the magazine release and trigger guard. Consistent with a recent firing. But it wasn't the gun that spoke loudest. It was the absence of evidence where evidence should have been. Detective Ellis said, Palmer's prints should have been all over that gun. But they weren't. Which tells me 2 things. 1. He wiped it clean. Or two. He never held it that night. And someone else did it for him. GSR tests were conducted on Palmer's hands and clothing the morning of the shooting. By then, he'd already showered, shaved, changed his clothes, and started the washing machine. Police found wet socks, a still warm dryer, and a gray hoodie hanging to dry in the garage. Unzipped, damp, but unmistakably his. Forensics confirmed trace levels of GSR on the cuffs. Not enough for a direct discharge, but enough to place the wearer near the muzzle at the moment it was fired. The bullet matched his gun. The casing matched the bullet. The angle of entry? From above, downward. Shot fired from standing height. Sophia was found lying on her right side, her face turned toward the doorway. She either never opened her eyes, or she saw who it was, and chose not to scream. Aaliyah wasn't just Sophia's sister. She was her shadow, her anchor, the one who knew what Sophia wouldn't say out loud, and what she feared might one day be proven true. She hadn't seen her sister in 4 days when she got the call. What she didn't say to police right away, because part of her still couldn't believe it, was that Sophia had once told her something that now plays on repeat in her head. If I disappear, check the drains. He won't leave bruises. He'll just erase me. Aaliyah tells investigators that 3 months before the murder, she caught Palmer scrolling through Sophia's phone while she was in the shower. Not just looking, digging. She confronted him. He shrugged. She leaves it unlocked. What do you expect? When Aaliyah told Sophia about it, Sophia brushed it off. He just gets insecure sometimes, she'd said, putting on her lashes in the mirror. We all do. But later that same night, Sophia texted Aaliyah. Don't say anything to him. Please. There were signs. Soft ones. Deliberate ones. Sophia started showing up to fewer family dinners. She stopped going to therapy, though Palmer kept paying for the sessions. And in a group chat with her cousins, she once wrote, I'm staying long enough to pay off the house. Then I'm out. But she never left. Their marriage counselor, Dr. Miles, said they hadn't shown up together in 5 months. Palmer called twice, asked if she was coming. She never returned those calls. Then one day, he stopped asking. For 5 months, he showed up alone, sometimes on time, sometimes not, sat through sessions like they were job interviews, offered no tears, just theories. There was no bruising, no ER visits, number 911 calls. But Sophia's friends say she started speaking slower, choosing words carefully. Her laughter got quieter. She began referring to herself as just tired. And in a chilling turn, she once told Kyra, I think I could vanish in this house, and no one would know until I started to smell. The tragedy wasn't just the murder. It was how many people were watching her disappear long before it happened. And still, she stayed. Maybe for the kids. Maybe for peace. Maybe because some women don't leave. Not because they can't, but because they're waiting for permission. 9 days after Sophia's funeral, the police showed up at Palmer's workplace. He was repairing the brake lines on a customer's car when the cuffs went on. The charge, second-degree murder. The motive, jealous rage. The evidence, circumstantial. All of it. No eyewitness. No surveillance footage of the shooting. No weapon traced directly to his purchase. But still, they brought him in. Palmer didn't flinch. He didn't ask why. He didn't even look confused. He just told his boss, call my wife's cousin. He'll finish the car. That unnerved the arresting officer more than any resistance would have. In the mugshot, his face is unreadable. No puffiness from crying. No bruises from struggle. No trace of emotion. Just a clean shave, an iron collar, and that unnerving stillness. His lawyer, public defender Elijah Bird, called the charge ambitious. There were no fingerprints on the recovered weapon. Gunshot residue was found on Palmer's jacket, but not on his hands. And the timeline? Still soft. No conclusive timestamps. Only assumptions. Only proximity. But then came Gina's phone call, the one Sophia made the night before she died. The prosecution played it on day 3 of the trial. He's been reading my diary. I didn't even know he knew where I hid it. I don't feel safe anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. The court didn't move. Even the bailiff looked away. Palmer didn't blink. Didn't reach for tissues. Didn't look at the jury. He just stared forward. Like the words meant nothing. The diary itself wasn't introduced yet. That would come later. But the phone call was enough to shift the air in the courtroom. Enough to make the jury glance at him sideways now. Less human. Less husband. Then came the neighbor's testimony. She lived 2 doors down. Said she heard what sounded like an argument. Raised voices. Around 1:30 a.m. She didn't call the police. She didn't go outside. She said, it just sounded like a couple tired of each other. But tired couples don't usually end up dead on the floor with a single bullet to the head. Tired couples slam doors. They don't die that quietly. The defense held firm. They argued Palmer had no history of domestic violence. He stayed after the funeral, helped plan it, even paid for the headstone. And when asked about Sophia in jail, he said, we were good, until we weren't. She changed. I didn't know how to reach her anymore. But prosecutors countered. He didn't try to reach her. He tried to erase her. They laid out the timeline. Palmer was at the house that night. No alibi between 12:45 a.m. and 2:10 a.m. The gun wasn't registered to him, but it was found. Clean. Wiped down. But his. Then came the turning point. Sophia's sister, Aaliyah, was called to the stand. She told the jury Palmer once said, if I can't have her, no one will. She didn't report it. She thought it was just drama. She cried while admitting that. But words become weapons when the blood dries. By day 7 of the trial, the jury wasn't looking at Palmer the same way. Silence after betrayal can mean many things. For some, it's guilt. For others, it's grief. But in court, silence often feels like arrogance. Because if you didn't do it, why wouldn't you say so? She didn't mean to leave it behind. It was wedged between a stack of prayer journals and unopened mail, left on the bottom shelf of the wardrobe she hadn't opened in months. Detective Aaron Mendez wasn't even looking for it. He was scanning the house for prescription bottles, suicide notes, maybe signs of forced entry. But he noticed the spine, worn leather, corners frayed, and in the corner, SS, Sophia's initials, carved with a dull pen. He opened it. Page 1. Dates, ordinary entries, grocery lists. Page 2. Gratitude notes, prayers, scriptures. Then, page 37. The handwriting changed. Less flow, less form, just pain. If I disappear, don't let him say it was an accident. That one sentence stopped Mendez cold. Sophia's diary was a timeline in ink, and each page pulled the room darker. August 14th. He checked my underwear again today. Not because he thinks I'm cheating. Because he says I need to remember who I belong to. September 3rd. Told me I could go see my mom. But he followed me there. Stayed in the car. Didn't even blink when I looked out the window. October 22nd. I told him I wanted to separate. He just laughed and said, go ahead, Ron. But if I lose you, I promise you'll lose more. I don't know if that was a threat. Or a promise. Sophia never used the word abuse. Never called him a monster. Never once said she was scared. But her body of words, spaced over months, told a story she hadn't been able to speak aloud. She stayed. Because she believed she had to. Because abuse doesn't always start with bruises. And when it finally does, they're the last thing the victim wants to admit. Forensics confirmed the handwriting. Palmer's attorney tried to argue the diary was therapeutic fiction, but the dates matched text messages, bank withdrawals. Even the night Sophia called her cousin from a bathroom at 1:14 a.m., crying without words, breathing like someone trying to make herself small enough to disappear. And there was one page near the end that turned everything. He said he'd rather bury me than let me leave. The DA didn't need more, but they got it anyway. Aaliyah was called to testify, not about what she saw, but what Sophia never said. She stepped into the courtroom in a plain navy dress. No makeup, no tears. I didn't think it was that bad, she said. She told me he raised his voice. But Sophia didn't do drama. She was the strong one, the one who fixed everybody else's mess. She paused, swallowing hard. But she stopped laughing near the end. That's what I noticed. Sophia laughed at everything, but not in those last months. She was shrinking, and I let her. The courtroom fell quiet. Malcolm, her colleague, testified too. He wasn't family. But he was the one who sat with her on the night she broke down in her car in the church parking lot, unable to drive home. He remembered her saying, "I wish I could hate him. It would be easier. But I still see the boy I met when I was 18. Malcolm admitted under oath. "I offered her my couch, a safe place. She didn't come. I don't blame her. I just wish I had called again." The last page of the diary was undated. Just 7 words, scribbled like she was running out of time. "If this ends badly, please believe me." That line broke the jury. Because it wasn't a prediction. It was a plea. And from beyond the grave, it said more than any witness ever could. Sophia had been planning to leave. She never got the chance. But with that one book, those quiet, careful entries, she testified. Without trembling, without apology. She named her fear. And fear, when it's written down, becomes evidence. She didn't run. She documented. And that was enough to reopen the case, shift the narrative, and crack the mask he wore so well. But was it enough for justice? Or did Palmer already get what he wanted? The last word?